Run it up, then run it back. Run it up, then run it back. Run it up, run it back. Run it up, then run it back.
Good day, everybody. Welcome to Run It Back. Hi, how are we doing today? Chandler, you first.
I am great. I got one more day here in Palm Springs. It's been an awesome week. My mom for her birthday. Gator game.
Good.
Gator game on Saturday.
Just living the life. Lou, where are you today? Anywhere good?
I'm in LA for the day.
Excuse me?
Yeah, I got something to do today at Intuit Dome, so I'm here doing that.
Well. Look at Lou on the road. All right. I know. Lakers played last night. Did you go to that? No, you didn't. But that's okay. You shouldn't have. Rockets were there. It was a slugfest. Lakers win 104-98. Luka finishes with 20. LeBron 18, 6 and 4. Reaves with 12. Amin Thompson had 25 and 4. Lakers are 14 and 8 at the moment with Luka in this lineup. He's averaging 27, 8.5 rebounds, 8 assists a game. And yes, the ceiling for his team has certainly changed since his arrival there in Los Angeles. But we only have a 22-game sample size. So I got to ask, Chandler, I'll start with you. What's more likely at this point? They lose in the first round or they make it to the finals?
I think it's more likely they make it to the finals. I think this team is going to find, a way to continue to defend. They went through that stretch where they're the best defensive team in the NBA. Offense, they've been clicking. You got to give JJ Redick credit for kind of making adjustments post Anthony Davis and how they operate, how their spacing is. They're a deep team. They have guys like Dorian Finney-Smith, Rui Hachimura, Jared Vanderbilt that are really good, versatile defenders. And Luka Doncic, he's just getting more comfortable. He's getting more comfortable. He's getting his balance back. He's getting everyone involved. Austin Reed's numbers have skyrocketed even more ever since Luka's there, which I don't think many people saw happening. And now you have LeBron James healthy, who they really struggled when he was out. So I don't think they're going to lose first round. I mean, I think it's a tall task to go to the finals, but they're not losing first round.
Okay. Lou, you agree?
I gotta agree with Chandler. It's way more likely for them to get to the finals than losing in the first round of the playoffs. The way that this team is playing, with Bron back in the lineup, with the way that Luka is playing and having all of the supporting cast playing the way that they're playing, it's more likely that they make a deep playoff run opposed to losing in the first round. I don't see that happening right now.
How quickly a story can change. Over the last 10 games, this is for you, Chandler. Austin Reaves is averaging 26, 5, and 6 assists. The internet doesn't forget. Freezing Cold Takes just posted it again the other day. Tell the world the ceiling on Austin Reaves.
Listen, I didn't know 15, 5, and 5 was an insult when I said that. Clearly Laker Nation saw a ball dominant guard and Luka Doncic coming there, and Austin Reaves' numbers somehow going up, and I missed that. And you got to credit the dude. I talked to Austin Reaves about this. I saw him at the game. It's funny, he didn't take it as an insult, and then people that don't know him or don't know anything about him did take it as an insult, but that's the world we live in. But listen, the dude's balling. He's always been an efficient, smart, tough player. And I did think that his numbers would take a hit with Luka there just on simple ball usage rate, but he's flourishing under the JJ Redick offense. He's still getting his touches. He's still getting his minutes. He's being efficient too. He's shooting 46% from the field, 36% from three. So he's still taking good shots. And listen, again, like I said, 15, 5, and 5 wasn't an insult when I said that. I didn't know how much room there was to grow. It's 26 and 5, and that's a big step up. So I was wrong. And listen, he's playing really good, and I'm happy for him.
We'll clip that. We'll make sure the internet sees it. They don't ever really do the follow-ups. I'll warn you now, but it'll be out there in case they need. I mean,
literally, in what world is 15, 5, and 5 an insult? What are we doing?
I don't know. I mean, if he's not insulted, but you know how it is. People who've never met someone, they want to be their best friend. They think maybe they'll see this and, LeBron will call them and they'll hang out. It's not how it works, internet. I have always wondered this, Lou, the award for most improved player. I guess everyone defines it differently, but I do think that maybe we take a look at it because a guy like Austin Reaves, who goes undrafted and is now doing this on the Los Angeles Lakers, I feel like that just screams most improved, or maybe we come up with a new award. But what do you think of most improved player for a guy like that?
Yeah, I don't think it should be any limits on most improved, but guys like Austin Reaves or guys that are in that class are more likely to win it, opposed to all-star caliber guys. But again, if you're a guy that was averaging 14 points and you come back that next year and you're averaging 25 or 26 points, you should be just as capable of winning that award as anybody else. And so I don't think there should be limitations on it, because guys like this that are unlikely to, average 25.7 in 10 games and doing those type of things, they're more likely to win it opposed to anybody else. So I don't want to see any limitations on it, but I definitely think this is something that Austin Reaves and other guys should be in the running for this type of award.
Yeah, it's crazy because Cade Cunningham's considered the favorite for this. He's like a #1 draft pick. I get that the team has had a total turnaround, but I don't know. Maybe it's worth a few bucks to put on Reaves at plus 7,500.
It's because anything that happened before the NBA doesn't matter. It's what happened basically last year to this year. So it doesn't matter if he was the #1 pick or if he was undrafted. His jump in team success, his jump in numbers, like a Norman Powell, a guy like that who went from whatever he was averaging last year to 23, 24 a game. That is a huge jump. No matter, I don't even know when Norman Powell got drafted. You know what I mean? So nothing counts till you're in the league. Like Jaden Ivey on Detroit was probably going to win it before he got hurt. Cade Cunningham teammate. So, you know what I mean? So as good as Austin Reaves is playing, you can't really factor in him being undrafted 6-7 years later and winning most improved player. But it is a crazy jump from where he came from versus a #1 pick prodigy.
Yeah, I guess so. It just seems like it could be. Maybe we get a new award. I'm always for new awards. Well, let's do a couple of highlights in this one. There were some good moments, a Luka and LeBron moment specifically. We'll start with the Luka times. Here he is, Şengün. Unfortunately, the victim. Oh. The victim is here.
Yeah, move your feet, big fella.
That's tough.
He did move his feet. They just went over each other.
He overmoved his feet.
Yeah, he overdid it. He overmoved him. No big deal. You know what? It's okay. It's all right. I mean, there are some things I worry about for Houston in the playoffs. We're going to get to that question in a second. I know it's one of Lou's favorites. We also have a LeBron. It just seems, tell me if you've seen this before.
Oh,
it's a game clinching.
What is this, the roast Şengün today?
I know. I kind of feel bad. I like Şengün. Why y'all doing this?
Place at the wrong time a lot of times this game.
I mean, well, he was active. Maybe we spin it positively. He was active and involved.
Michelle, it's funny that you said, because anytime if someone's on the court with LeBron James right now and you're on the fast break, don't you know he's coming behind? This is different because this is a post
Don't you
movement.
feel it?
This is different. This is a half court set. You can't see him come from the weak side corner. Fast break. It's amazing how he still gets these, because that would be the only thing I'm looking for if I'm playing the Lakers on the break.
I just feel like maybe it's because I'm a woman living in the world, so I constantly am living in a state of paranoia that someone's following me. But I feel like if you're on the court with LeBron James, don't you just assume he's somewhere? He's just right around me at some point. Right, I don't know. He's here. Look, we've addressed this topic. The whole idea that there are some folks out there anonymously saying that teams would prefer to face an OKC or a Houston in the playoffs because of the youth. Now, Lou hates this question, and I think the anonymous part's a big part of it. But watching a game like last night, Chandler, seeing the Lakers against Houston, which could, we could see that. Does that validate any of that theory?
I think it does for certain teams, right? Like, I feel like when you're talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder, like, I don't care how young they are. I don't want to play against them in the playoffs early, because that team is proven, that team is battle tested, that team is deep, that team is elite. Yeah, I think when you look at the Denver Nuggets or the Houston Rockets, I think most teams would want to face the Rockets just because of that inexperience. You don't want to go up with a juggernaut offense like Jokic and Murray. Now, that doesn't discredit the Rockets, how they're on the rise and they're very good, or a Memphis Grizzly team. Who would teams rather play, the Grizzlies or the Lakers? I think they'd probably play the Lakers. You don't want LeBron and Luka and that star power where they can turn it on, they can go win a series with the two of those guys against most teams. So I think that's just the comfortability of having that star power on these other teams versus these up and coming inexperienced teams. Same with the Celtics and the Cavs. That's why I think early on everyone wasn't discrediting the Cavs, but I think they were just kind of looking at them in comparison to the Celtics and felt like they were a notch below.
I'm glad you brought up the Celtics. They've been doing things. So they lose to OKC back on March 12th. And since then, they just went ahead and won 9 straight games. NBA's best road record at 32-7, 2 wins shy of matching the road record, the best one in history that the Warriors had when they won 73 games. That's not all. They become the first team in NBA history to play 6 straight road games and win all 6. I think that one's pretty good. The home court advantage here, Lou, doesn't seem to need to be there. I mean, they'll have it, but the fact that they just did what they did on the road, what does that tell you?
They're a well-oiled machine. You know, as much as we talked about so many different teams this year, Boston has just went about their business quiet as ever and just been whooping everybody. You know, if it wasn't for the season that the Cleveland Cavaliers were having, they'd be by far the best team in the East. But because of how Cleveland was able to come out and start this season, you know, they've kind of been able to go under the radar, kind of go unnoticed. You know, we've talked about Cleveland all year. We've talked about Houston. We've talked about the Lakers a ton. Obviously, OKC. We've talked about Denver getting better and better. Boston's been one of those teams that just been steady this whole time, trying different lineups. You know, you got the emergence of Peyton Pritchard. You have guys like that playing well and doing their thing. And, you know, Jason Tatum has been touted as boring and basic. But look at how this team is going. Not a very sexy team to watch play basketball, but they've been rolling for the entirety of the season and still one of my favorite teams for the NBA Finals this year. But it's been amazing everything that they've been able to accomplish this year and not be talked about as much.
They're scary, Chandler. They're that good on the road. That's scary.
Yeah. It's crazy, and because we are giving flowers all season long to the Cavs because of their historic run and how good they are and that jump they made. But the Celtics have been there all year long. Porzingis is now healthy, and Porzingis has been unbelievable since he's been back in the lineup. And just look at the team stats of the Celtics throughout the season. They're top 5 in every category. They're top 10, top 5 in that area. The top 5 defense. They're the number 2 offense. You can tell you they play at both sides of the ball at an elite level. They're pretty much healthy for the most part. You know, Peyton Pritchard has really taken a huge step, and he's, you know, a 6th man of the year lock where he's a starting point guard on most teams. So now you're talking about the depth of already the team with the best starting 5. They do it all. There's not really a hole besides maybe getting a little 3 happy and shooting too many threes, but it's working, and it's working, and they can dominate the ball on the defensive end with switching everything. Al Horford's still giving them production. They are unreal. And when you look at that road record, the 32-7, that kind of puts them at ease going into the playoffs as the 2 seed, not the 1 seed, because they have no fear going to Cleveland if it comes to that in the Eastern Conference Finals.
And you mentioned threes. I'd just like to shout out Derek White. Sets the record for most threes by a Celtic in a season. I mean, to be on a list for the Celtics is crazy. Crazy.
Think about that. Derek White has more threes than Ray Allen.
Yeah, Derek White, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out. Look, record-wise, obviously they're not as good. You want to say that in quotes, but as last year. So, but the $6 billion question, I suppose, Chandler, is this Boston Celtics team better than last year's?
I think they are. I think they're better than last year. I think the Eastern Conference last year kind of paved an easier route last year for them to get to the finals with injuries and with the teams that they faced kind of being banged up. And this year, the Eastern Conference is stronger. The Knicks obviously are going through their issues. The Pacers are solid. The Bucks are solid. The Cavs have been unbelievable all year long. And the Celtics are still that dominating, you know, explosive team. So I do think they're better this year. I think the league in general is better this year. And definitely the Cavs, but the Celtics, they can do it all. When you look at a team, you worry about this or that. You watch the Celtics play, again, unless it's a little 3 happy, shooting early shots, getting out in transition, I don't really see a hole with them coming in the playoffs because they're going to be able to play slower in the half court in the postseason, or they can play fast and shoot more threes than anybody. So I don't see an issue with them going into the postseason this year.
Lou, if I'm watching the Celtics, right? I'm not a former player. I know that's a shock, but what do I see that I think, okay, they're better than they were last season? Is there something tangible?
You know, just how the way that they've added other guys to what we expect from them. You know, you got Tatum, you got Brown, you got Drew Holiday, you got all these guys, and we've been talking about the supporting cast more than those guys a lot. We talked about Peyton Pritchard, talk about Derek White making history. Like, that's what makes them a better team, when you can add guys like that to what they've already been doing that makes them successful and makes them a good group. That's the one thing. And another thing is just how steady they've been. You don't hear about them going on losing streaks. You don't hear about the adversity that other teams go through. This team is just steady. That, I think, for me, that's one of the things that makes them just a better team opposed to being who they were last year. Adding guys to your success rate, and also just being steady and being consistent.
Lou, I don't give you enough credit sometimes for your framing. I just want to say what you've done over the course of this show by changing up the framing and keeping us on our toes is stunning.
I'm on my iPad and it follows me around, and so I'm just trying to sit back and just stay still.
I like that. Well, can you at least give us a thermostat update? Do we know what kind of temperature we're looking at in the room for you right now?
We're on 72 right now.
Dang, what are you, like, hot? This is weird. Okay, I love it.
Lou was like this at one point. Lou was like this.
This was like a half Lou show. I don't even know how you have that technology. Do I even have that? I guess I don't have that. Okay, back to the Celtics. Sorry. Jake Fisher is reporting that they're going to have some serious luxury tax issues, so they're probably going to need to trade maybe a Kristaps Porzingis or a Drew Holiday. Lou, I'll start with you on this one. Who makes more sense to trade of those two?
Probably Porzingis, with Drew Holiday and what he brings to the defensive side of the basketball for this team. That's a tangible thing. You just asked about something tangible we can put our hands on. Drew Holiday he's going to be one of those guys that you got to have in your lineup. Kristaps Porzingis, with his injury history, with him being in and out of the lineup, that team just kept rolling. They just kept playing great basketball without him. So I think he's an added piece, but he's not necessarily a piece that they can't move on without. I think Drew Holiday is going to be one of those guys that you absolutely got to keep in this lineup for you to be successful.
Crazy days. What do you agree, Chandler, or are you doing the other way?
I don't want to trade it either. I don't want to change anything with the team. I think this team, as constructed, is bound to win multiple championships. I do agree with Lou. I think the injury history and health of KP is a little concerning, and Drew Holiday is a generational talent defensively, and he's one of those guys that just impact winning without having to score the ball. And when you have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, you don't really need other guys to score the ball like that. But I do like Porzingis kind of stretching the floor, pick and pop for them. They got Peyton Pritchard on an absolute bargain on his contract. True. And so it is going to make an interesting future, especially that a new ownership group just comes in and they're going to ruffle some feathers if they don't pay these guys and keep this team together for that fan base that's been so excited for in recent years. So I wouldn't want to have to make that decision, but if I had to pick one, I'd probably get off KP before I'd get off Drew Holiday.
I mean, does it help though that he missed a lot? Like, they won the finals last year. They didn't necessarily need Porzingis. I'm wondering how much of that plays into sort of the mental. Yeah,
but then also Al Horford's another year older, and that's kind of their other big. So you need someone. But
he stays until he's done. He's never leaving. I don't want Al Horford leaving the league ever. He has rights to that. Okay, we're in it. It's finally almost there, guys. 7-8 games max left for most teams. At this point, you pretty much know whether you're in the postseason or not. Maybe you just don't know where you're going to be. I'm wondering, we hear the slog, like these are the days, Lou. Everyone's tired. There's malaise. What are these final less than 2 weeks like?
It's going to be different for every team. It's going to be different because you still got teams that's worrying about seeding, and then now you're starting to have other teams they're focused on resting guys up and being prepared for the postseason. So everybody's scenario is completely different. What you're experiencing is going to be a different forecast for different franchises just based on where you are. And these are the dog days. These are the days where guys are exhausted, irritable. You're going to start seeing a few more fights than usual. You're going to see a little bit more arguing than you. Yeah, we're going to get all of that stuff in these last couple of weeks because, again, everybody's just anxious to get to the postseason. You're prepared to get to the playoffs. Some teams don't know what their playoff futures hold. Some teams are still fighting to get in. And so depending on your scenario, it changes with your vibe and what's to be expected for these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it is drastically different for each team, like Lou said. If you're one of these teams that's out of the plan, you're literally making summer plans. Your front office is, at probably the Final Four, watching more college basketball than ever. But if you're one of these teams in the hunt, this is where you're hitting stride. This is where you're getting healthy. This is where you know who you are at this point, right? It's not like the Rockets are just going to start playing differently going into the playoffs now, whether they're the 2 or the 3 seed in the Western Conference. So it's all about just kind of sharpening, what you got already in the tool bag and getting ready for getting guys healthy. Like a team like the Knicks, it's just get Jalen Brunson healthy. I don't know what they can do differently, what they have been doing the last month or however long he's been out. But pretty much on those teams, it's just sharpening up, keeping guys ready, keeping guys in shape. And obviously the teams that aren't in, just giving these other guys, these two-way guys, these younger guys, more opportunity to play. Like you see Drew Timme the other day had 50 in the G League. He plays for the Nets. His first game, he has 10 and 11. Like this is a huge, this is a huge time for a guy like that that's trying to get a job in the NBA for next year.
I can tell you as a fan, like if you're a fan of a contending team right now, you're just sort of on pins and needles, hoping nobody gets hurt in these final days. Do players even think about that, Chandler? Is that something you can even have cross your mind?
I don't think, but if there's something nagging me, like if my hamstring's been nagging me, then yeah, I might sit out these, these 2 of these last 3 games which I would play in earlier on the season and trying to play through the things like that. But I don't think you really think about injuries as a player. Like when I go out there, if I'm fully healthy, I'm not being like, oh, well, we got the playoffs in 3 weeks. I'm not going to play tonight because I might sprain my ankle. You don't think like that. But your minutes might be lower. You're not playing on a back-to-back as many minutes as you did, in December or January. But you're not really ever going into a game thinking you're going to get hurt.
And you don't want to trick yourself out of rhythm either. Like if you're in a good groove and you're rolling, you don't want to start sitting games and messing with your rhythm, messing with your vibe, then get into that postseason and now you're trying to find it again. And so if you're in a great, this thing is moving again, but if you're in a great place in the season, you don't want to mess that up and you don't want to go into it worrying about injuries and this and that. You want to be in the best shape that you can possibly be in and in the best rhythm you can possibly be in as well.
Yeah, I feel like if you're on a non-contending team, this just feels like you're a senior and you don't care about the last 2 weeks. It must be fun. All right, we've got to take a quick break. Our friend is back on the other side. Sam Amick gonna have some answers for us when we return. Oh man, he's back, guys. Sam Amick from The Athletic is here. There's been a lot going on. There's always a lot going on. So every time we bring you on, it's perfect timing. Sam, first of all, good day. And secondly, what the hell happened with Taylor Jenkins in Memphis? Why did that seem so out of the blue to everyone?
Good morning, guys. Appreciate you having me. Little technical issues, but we good. We here. Taylor Jenkins, it's crazy because as we went to write our story, I didn't know how else to kind of frame it other than to say, essentially, and I'm paraphrasing, okay, this isn't as wild as the Luka trade, but for this season, it's up there from a shock factor standpoint. But I'll be honest, then you dive in quickly and try to figure out the why and the what and get behind the curtain a little bit. And it makes a lot more sense now. Not saying good move, bad move, but this is a group that had gotten stagnant. This is a coaching staff, more specifically, that if you go back to last summer, the writing was really on the wall. And I'll be honest with you, nationally, we missed it. And what I mean by that is they swapped out Taylor's entire coaching staff, 5 assistants out, 5 assistants in. Lou and Chandler, as you guys know, like that's as big a warning sign as any when it comes to a head coach. Not only that, one of the main guys they brought over, Tuamas Isolo, they had a 7-figure buyout to get him out of his European contract, 7-figure salary when he came to town, very heavily invested in this guy. And so what seems clear to me now is that Taylor was, in the last stages of like, unless you pull off a miracle here, we're really interested in having this new guy take over with some of his more innovative offensive concepts and as far as how the organization saw it. So John Morant at the center of all of that, of course, but still pretty stunning stuff.
Okay, the 7-figure stuff, I don't think we realized. That is, God, why would Taylor Jenkins even want to be there then? That seems like a long time to know that your replacement's standing right behind you.
Right.
Right? But then I guess the timing, and you mentioned John Morant. Number one, was he on board? I know everyone's saying nobody was consulted and the GM saying it was all on him, but we always look right away to the star of a team when a coach is fired, especially when it's in surprising times. So where was he on this?
So our information is that he was on Team Taylor, if you will, until the very end and all the way until the end. But he, I don't know to what degree, he complained when the move happened. As far as whether they were consulted, you guys know it. It's always unimaginable that they didn't obviously take a pulse. I will say, I don't know specifically in Ja's camp what the communication was like, but every other camp that we connected with, all the main ones, they all said they were shocked that they didn't see this coming. They didn't know this was around the corner. But that's the fascinating part, and this is an imperfect comparison, but having kind of just lived through the whole De'Aaron Fox saga in Sacramento, I see a couple of comparisons here where you've got the star in the middle that, you're doing things that are dangerous, I think, where you're almost compelling that player to be even less comfortable in a place that was already going in the wrong direction. So with Ja, it's like he didn't like the offense. That is something that we can kind of definitively say. And I'm talking about the new one, the one that the non-Taylor Jenkins offense, that he was not enjoying the evolution of his role. And now for them to lean even farther into it, seemingly, seems a little precarious.
So then can we start to plan for Ja's next team? Is that writing on the wall as well?
I mean, they say no, obviously. Zach Kleiman, the Grizzlies GM, this was probably 3 weeks ago. My buddy and colleague from The Ringer, Howard Beck, had said on a podcast that he heard that we should all look out for Ja to, maybe be on the move. I thought it was fascinating that Zach, it wasn't even like a hard report. It wasn't, headlines and breaking news, just something somebody said on a podcast that made the rounds. And next thing you know, Zach is publicly commenting on it and saying, that other teams can keep dreaming and we're not going to move Ja. But it's in the same, again, a little bit of the same vibe of the Fox situation, which is like, all right, keep your eyes on it and see where it goes.
Man.
Yeah, Sam, I wanted to ask, as far as the coaching, like you just mentioned, the 7-figure buyout to get him over there. Do they look around the league at other candidates, or do you feel like they've pretty much found their guy?
I mean, it feels like, and just in my experience, it's kind of like just follow the money and follow the breadcrumbs. And it feels like, it would surprise me that they would go to these lengths to bring him to town and then cut ties with him this summer. Hopefully you guys had me. I think it might be chopping up a little bit.
We hear you.
We hear you.
But,
we can't see you.
We'll see. They're 0-2. Okay. All right. Well, that's a great shot. I'm looking lovely.
Could be worse.
Yeah,
Could be worse.
I think they're 0-2. Yeah. They're 0-2 since he took over. I think the finish matters, no pun intended, since he's finished. But I don't know. It feels like this is an organizational decision to go with him. But we'll see if I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, it seems like you said, it seems like the writing's on the wall for this guy to come in here, kind of fill that next, role as head coach here. But for Taylor Jenkins, obviously, I don't think this is his last stop as a head coach, right? I jokingly, halfway kidding, think he could go to Philly, a team like that I think is going to be in the market for a head coach. Do you think Taylor Jenkins gets another shot at being a head coach of the league?
Yeah, I do. I feel like his reputation's in a really good place. It's partly, I think, the benefit of, you could look at the Memphis tenure in a couple of different ways. They had so much success, multiple 50-plus win seasons. I think internally there was that frustration that the playoff success wasn't there. He's 9-14 in the postseason. This year, they're 11-20 under him against teams that were over 500. So I almost feel like, outside looking in, people are going to see a guy who was a foundational member of a small market group that did, exciting things and was on the verge of being a real contender. And his part in that, when it came to the culture, when it came to the mentality and the stuff on the floor, he seemed to have everybody's respect. And really up until the end. I mean, even Desmond Bain and John Morant, these guys, Jaren Jackson, you don't hear anybody kicking them on the way out. It's an organizational decision. So the optics for Taylor, for the rest of the league and his hireability, if you will, I think are really good. I mean, shoot, in my neck of the woods, Sacramento fans immediately started talking about, how do you feel about Taylor maybe coming this way? I think, he's a very good coach and a guy with a good rep. So I expect him to land on his feet for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, San Antonio. I have to keep hearing that. I'm like, oh, well, he did start here, and that's kind of a thing.
Thank you, Michelle. I am glad you mentioned that. I know you're the all things Spurs expert. He is for sure.
Who, me?
You hear about this? Yeah. This kind of informal discussion that we keep having about the Pop successor, and certainly no one's trying to kick the legend out before he wants to go. But
sure.
Taylor is somebody who is widely discussed on that list as well.
I knew it. Okay, Giannis, you wrote the about him, and the quote that stood out that we had some fun with was, "The winning was better than intimacy." Sam, I thought that was a great quote and made a lot of sense to me. Would you be shocked to know that when I asked Chandler, he said absolutely not?
I saw the clips. I think I'm frozen again. I saw the clips. Right. I enjoyed them greatly. Learned a lot about Chandler in that segment. I thought that was hilarious. Giannis has he's pulled that line multiple times in these conversations that we'll have. So the part that I enjoyed quite a bit was that I honestly started laughing before he finished his sentence because I knew what he was about to say. Enjoyed trying to have fun with him a little bit. You guys saw where I told him I'm hoping that his wife doesn't read The Athletic. I don't know if she would enjoy that statement. But then he got me back because he's basically like, all right, but she's actually about to have her fourth kid, so we're doing fine. I mean, that's Giannis. He's playful. He has a fun ability to take topics, like winning and pressure and all these things that might be uncomfortable to talk about, and honestly add a little bit of levity to the room. So one of my favorite parts of having these kind of conversations with him.
Seems fun. What is there a takeaway that you sum up in a sentence other than his fun joking talk? I mean, was there anything else that he sort of revealed or that you took away?
Well, it's funny because, I'll be honest with you. I just decided that as you sat there talking to him in mid-March, early March, whenever it was, like, the time is not appropriate to be real direct with him about, all right, where's your head at with not only this team, that's fine, but like your future. And we all know this summer might be interesting when it comes to Giannis. If they flame out, if Damian Lillard can't come back from the blood clot that he's dealing with in the calf, I do think that if you go back to September, when I talked to Giannis in training camp, he was the one who, again, humor combined with honesty, literally grabbed a staff member in the gym at training camp, grabbed him by the shoulder and kind of joked with him and said, "Hey, buddy, like, if we lose this year and don't do well, do you think you'll get fired?" And like, ha ha ha. And his point was like, everybody's on the clock, and he had even made inferences about, the power brokers in Milwaukee. So he knows what the stakes are. And the extension of that obviously is, okay, if it doesn't end in a way that makes everybody in Milwaukee feel all warm and fuzzy, then is the big fella going to ever raise his hand and say, "I'd like to go somewhere else"?
Yeah. And Sam, you mentioned Dame, and he's out indefinitely with deep vein thrombosis. Do you have any update on his status? Is there a world where we can see him? I know, Chandler, big words get you going. I see. It doesn't take.
He's such a tool.
It doesn't take much to get him going. I seen his face light up when I said thrombosis. But do you have any update on Dame's status? Is it a world where we can see him in the playoffs possibly?
Oh boy.
So I need to check on that.
Oh, there he is.
When it first went down, you got me?
Yep.
When it first went down, I was really surprised to hear that there was a significant amount of optimism with Dame's people that he would be able to return. Now, I'll be honest with you, there's not a medical degree on this wall behind me, as you can tell. And what I had learned about deep vein thrombosis is that you typically would have to take the blood thinners for at least 3 months. That did not reconcile with optimism. Was told that he saw 5 different hematologists to get a bunch of different opinions on the situation. And they insisted that there is reason for optimism here. Now, we'll see if that ends up being, kind of well-founded. I know he was on blood thinners even a couple of days before the news came out, and they had early returns were good, but the clot was getting smaller. But yeah, we got to wait and see on that front.
Sam, we powered through this. I need you to go speak to a manager at your internet company before the next one. But we do appreciate you sticking with us. We got through it, man. We got the good info out of you.
Sorry, guys. Yeah.
No, not on you. We'll take a quick break.
Yeah.
We'll have some more Run It Back on the other side.
Run it up, then run it back. Run it.
Welcome back. There he is, Jon Rothstein. Of course, you know him. We're in the thick of it. March Madness time. College basketball insider for CBS. Also a member of our FanDuel family here. I know you love this time of year. I know you actually count it down, John, from like 300 days out. So we're in it. And you've probably heard some of the whining and the complaining that we've got our Final Four and that there were no actual Cinderella stories to speak of. I don't see this as a problem, but others do. What have you made of the tournament so far?
The Cinderella that brings people in from the periphery is part of the fabric of March Madness. There's no doubt about that. But I think the trade-off when you don't have that is these elite made-for-TV matchups that obviously we're going to see this weekend. And, ironically enough, the last time that all four number one seeds made the Final Four, and the only time in history that all four number one seeds made the Final Four, the Final Four was in San Antonio in 2008. Memphis played UCLA and Kansas played North Carolina, and it was an all-time Final Four. So I understand why there's a little bit of a void from the Cinderella perspective, but part of those great Cinderella runs and upsets that we have seen in years past is why they're special, because they don't happen all the time. And the flip side of that is you get these truly elite matchups like we have this weekend.
And then the mid-majors, we're already looking ahead to the future and worrying about what we don't know is going to happen yet. But the idea that mid-majors will no longer be able to be competitive, do you agree with that?
It's definitely more majors competitive. I think a big thing that happened is this, because there's just such a lack of player retention in college basketball right now because of the transfer portal, because of NIL, you don't have those mid-major programs who are able to keep a nucleus for an extended period of time. That is something that you think is a real factor why we're seeing up at the mid-major level, and it makes what we that much more special.
Yeah, John, we're going to try and get through this here, but I could barely hear you because of the service there. But, I know we're talking about mid-majors and then obviously March Madness, anything can happen, right? There can still be a team that makes a run, but how drastically different is, the transfer portal now? How has that changed the landscape of college basketball? And does that really limit, these Cinderella stories moving forward in March?
Yeah, I think it does to an extent, but I also think we have to look back, a couple of years ago, and we saw major upsets. I mean, think back to 2 years ago. Fairleigh Dickinson was a team that wasn't good enough to be in a situation where it could win the Northeast Conference title, and it went on to beat Purdue and probably the biggest upset in the history of the NCAA tournament. So we're only 2 years removed from that. In 2022, St. Peter's, a team that did not win the MAC regular season title, was able to beat Kentucky in the first round. So I think that's also something that's just a couple of years removed that we have to keep in mind.
So help me understand the timing of the portal too, because it opens up right in the middle of the tournament. Is that something that you think they're going to change in coming years? Because it's very strange that it's going on. Like it's like a disadvantage for Florida to be in the Final Four right now, and the portal's open and they don't care yet because they're focused on the Final Four. Like the timing of that has to change, right?
Yeah, I think one thing that really would be better for all parties involved is if we at least had, a 1 week delay. If we had a 1 week delay and it started on the Monday after the Elite Eight, I think things would be a little bit more seamless. I would prefer it to start after the national championship game, because I think the one thing we have to look at is, we are all building up all year long to obviously the NCAA tournament, and that attention is not being showcased properly because there is attention on the transfer portal. That's a big thing that needs to be fixed on the college basketball calendar.
And honestly, John, it seems like the most logical, easily fixable. It actually blows my mind how nonsensical it was that opened up when it did. I thought that was absurd. But let's talk about what we got here. We got 4 number 1 seeds. Second time that they've made it to the Final Four. It was 2008 when we had Derrick Rose, Chalmers, Westbrook, Tyler Hansbrough. I know Cooper Fly gets all of the attention and all of the love, but how much more NBA talent are we going to be seeing this weekend out there?
Well, Duke obviously has a large portion of it, Michelle, with Malawach, with Knipple, with Flagg. I think Joseph Tugler on Houston is another player that will obviously find a role in the NBA. And then on the other side of things, it's going to be a little bit different. But, I think the one thing that I want to point out is that there is always, obviously, for people from the periphery, the intrigue of seeing NBA level, but it's not always what win college basketball. Now, certainly, if you look at the last couple of champions, it's been a prerequisite. But we have also seen certain instances in the NCAA tournament where it's not a prerequisite. But I think when you're looking at one team that stands out among the rest in terms of NBA prospects, it's Duke, and it's Duke alone. You think back to last year, UConn had Steph Castle, it had Donovan Clingan, it had Cam Spencer. 2 years ago, UConn had Andre Jackson, Jordan Hawkins, and Adama Sonongo, who wasn't draftable, was the most outstanding player in the tournament. Kansas in 2022 had Christian Brown and also Ochai Agbaji. So Duke is the team if we're going to see NBA prospect showcase that really shines through this weekend in San Antonio.
All right, Rothstein, we've got a bunch more questions for you. We're not giving up on this. We're going to take a quick break. Hopefully we can rearrange some stuff and get technology to work with us. So we're going to take a break. We will be right back.
Run it up, then run it back. Run it back.
This is bracket season, and FanDuel letting you make the call because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Bet on everything from team totals to point spreads and even who's cutting down the nets. There's tourney action almost every day, and America's #1 sportsbook is the #1 place to bet the tourney. So download the app and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. I don't know what's going on, Chandler. You're in California. I'm in Texas. Our internet is crushing, but the rest of the country, not a good day. So we're going to get through the last 5 minutes of the show together, friend. Let's talk a little Pelicans because they shut down Zion. They also shut down CJ McCollum as well. And I'm wondering if you're another team and you're watching this. And we did get to see a lot of Zion, more than we usually have. Are you interested? Is he frozen? I swear on everything.
April Fools.
I was about to just log off. I'll be honest.
I didn't hear the question. I was fully planning that in my head.
You were method acting. All right.
Something about the Pelicans.
Should the Pelicans try to move Zion? Jackass.
I mean, yeah, listen, I think that someone with his injury history, I feel like he's always going to kind of be shopped. It's always going to be kind of holding your breath type feeling when he is playing. But that team does have a lot of talent. I can't help to think like 2 years ago when they were rolling with, Trey Murphy and Herb Jones and Grand Theft Alvarado they had all these pieces, and we were talking about how good of a coach Willie Green is and how this young core could bring, championship hopes to the city. And at first, we just gotten so far away from that, and it's all been health driven. So I do think they have a lot of assets that people would be interested in, starting with Zion, but I don't know how much you're willing to give up for a guy that's been consistently hurt his whole career.
On top of that, the Zion thing, we also want to talk about, I mentioned that CJ McCollum was shut down as well. We also know that, of course, that LaMelo Ball's been shut down. De'Aaron Fox was shut down a while ago. All of these teams are in the lottery. Should we read into that? Is this an issue, or is everyone just really hurt and it's time?
Oh, I mean, I think at this point of the season, once you're out, and there's no reason to continue to win these games. You see teams do that all the time. It's very head scratching to me of why they're doing it, but also guys want to play, and guys want to, in contract years, they want to show other franchises they're still auditioning no matter what level of your career you are at. You still want to hoop, you still want to play, and you still want to, audition for future free agencies and off season. So I think it's smart, like a team like Charlotte, when they have no shot of even making the play in, and they have such a good draft with these top 3 picks. You want to have the worst record possible to put yourself in the situation. Now, that does send a kind of a gross message to the fan base and to the players in that locker room that we are trying to lose, and that's probably not going to sit well with everybody. But business wise, in certain situations, it is the right move, and it is the best thing to do for the future of these franchises.
So we know that KD's out for a week, right? They have like, I think 7 games left. He's missing at least 3. The crazy thing is he needs 3 of the final 4 to play in to be, eligible for the 65 games played thing. But I don't want to talk about that. What I want to talk about is, are we going to see KD in a Phoenix Suns uniform again?
No, we're not. And I think it's done. I think it's over. And I do think he will play 3 of those, whatever games left, because that is a big kicker and there's big incentives with his endorsements and things like that to be able to be, available for those, all NBA type awards. So I just don't think everything that's happened with him, them trying to move him at the deadline, to him going back there, to them kind of making this last push when Dallas got hurt to get in the play-in. Now them pretty much being out of the play-in. I just don't see it. I see so many other good fits and opportunities when you look across the league with the teams like the Spurs, with the teams like the Rockets that have enough to give up to kind of let the Suns start that transition of rebuilding, whether it's around Devin Booker or whether it's not. I think everyone's on the table this summer in Phoenix.
I'm sure you saw it yesterday. Steph Curry stays the trendsetter because TRAE Young has now signed on to be the assistant GM for his alma mater, Oklahoma. Going back to his old program there, do you think this is a thing? Like, we're going to see a lot more of this?
Again, I don't know how much attention that they're going to actually, have on their college programs. I think it's all depending on how much money you're donating.
Well, he has donated $1 million. He's putting $1 million towards the program.
I jokingly said to Todd Golden when the Steph thing came out, who's the coach of Florida, I said, hey, like, they're renaming the training room after me this summer. I said, hey, do you need, like, I got the time. I'm available to go and do this. And he said, yeah, donate a couple $1 million and you can have whatever role you want. So obviously it's, No, me.
Then you should do that. Wait, hold on. They're naming the training room at Florida after you.
Yeah, I don't know if that's flattering or offensive. They're like, this guy's been hurt so much. Let's name that. I think Joakim Noah gets the weight room. Corey Brewer gets the film room. I get the training room.
Oh, you know what? I was going to say maybe it means you worked hard, but no, that doesn't make sense either. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there, Chandler.
I think if anybody wants to donate millions of dollars to their school to help with, renovations and NIL and getting players, I think, yeah, for sure, there's going to be a lot of opportunities. And I know TRAE is a diehard Oklahoma Sooner. Steph Curry, again, he's the pride of Davidson. So I think it's cool when you see these ex-players that are still playing have an impact on their college program, because all those kids look up to those guys.
It's pretty cool. Like, however, in whatever capacity this even means, I like it. I like this move for folks, and I can't wait for yours at Florida. We're all looking forward to it. Internet gods, get your stuff together, because we will be back tomorrow, and tomorrow we'll be joined by Michael Thompson.
What a dogfight this was.
We got through it, buddy. We got through it.
Run it back.